In the process of mutually using each other with her boss, Harmony developed feelings. Her boss is about to get married but is withholding her commission, unwilling to let her go. Anything can be manipulated except her money. So, Harmony decided to go all in. In the usual silence of the night, except not in this hotel room. After all the passion had receded, Harmony sat up. "Mineral water, want some?" she asked the man lying behind her, while turning on the bedside lamp. "Sure. I have a girlfriend, getting married next month," Samuel suddenly said as Harmony was about to get out of bed. Her body tensed. The room temperature wasn't low, but Harmony felt as if a cool breeze had passed over her spine, making her feel cold from the inside out. "You should have told me earlier, Samuel." Harmony took a bottle of mineral water and handed it to the man. "What, upset?" Samuel looked up. This man always had a way of being hurtful in words, yet his gaze was always focused and affectionate. Harmony couldn't blame herself for falling for him. Non-existent, they locked eyes for a few seconds. Harmony smiled. "Just if I knew earlier, I wouldn't have come to this place. It would also save your girlfriend from being wronged. Seems like you're still upset." Samuel reached out to pull her. "I'll go wash up." Harmony casually avoided him, took a couple of steps, then stopped. "Do you want me to resign? We're both adults, is it necessary?" Samuel threw the question back. Seeing Harmony not speaking, he got out of bed, put on his shoes, and hugged her from behind, his voice carrying a smile. "In the entire advertising industry, who doesn't know that Miss Harmony is the ace salesperson at Jusheng? And getting married is just a family arrangement. There won't be any changes between us. Just letting you know, you don't need to take it to heart." So, that was Samuel's plan. It wasn't exactly surprising for Harmony, but her heart still stung suddenly. Feeling tired and unwilling to discuss the topic further, Harmony silently dressed and left the hotel. The sky was already getting light. Harmony recalled a popular saying online, "If you feel tired, go see somewhere at 4 a.m. It was exactly 4 a.m. now. She looked up, gazing at the faint stars that were almost blurry, and smiled after a long while. Samuel was right, they were both adults, and it really wasn't necessary. However, deep down, she was still a woman. Having made things difficult for herself many times, this time, Harmony didn't want to make things difficult anymore. The next day, she put on full makeup, took out her so-called battle outfit, painted bold red lips, and then walked into Samuel's office. Samuel, Harmony, in a businesslike manner, said, "Thank you for the company and your help, but for personal development needs, I've decided to resign. Please arrange the relevant handover procedures as soon as possible." As she spoke, she placed the printed resignation notice in front of Samuel. Samuel pushed the paper back. He glanced at the tightly closed door, lowered his voice. "Harmony, I've said, nothing will change. Maybe." Harmony remained calm. "But I still think it's better for both of us if I leave." "You're a ruthless woman," Samuel chuckled, walked over, and put his hand on her shoulder. A warm breath brushed Harmony's ear. "I know you're tired. How about this, I'll give you a week off, take a good rest, and we'll discuss other matters later." After saying that, Samuel took a few steps and opened the door. Harmony understood this man and knew that today could only go this far. She nodded and walked out. She drove for an hour and returned to her parents' home, just in time for lunch. "Why did you suddenly come back?" Her mother was somewhat surprised to see Harmony coming in. "We don't have much food at home. How about making a boiled fish? I'll go downstairs to buy fish." She was about to take off her apron as she spoke. "It's okay, just take a bite." Harmony held her hand. "How can that be? It's all light, not to your taste," her mother insisted. Harmony didn't stop her again. Sometimes she felt more and more like a guest in this house. But there was no way, from her parents' perspective, they always felt indebted to her. Not letting them do the work would make them feel even worse. Harmony sat down at the dining table and suddenly saw 2 sets of bowls and chopsticks on the table. Her father must be at work now. Besides her mother, could her younger brother also be at home? Thinking of this, Harmony's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly pushed open the door to the small bedroom. Sure enough, 16-year-old Timothy was lying in bed, his face a bit flushed. "Sis, you're back?" Seeing her, Timothy struggled to sit up, forcing a smile. "Are you feeling unwell?" Harmony walked to his side in a few steps, touched his forehead. "When did you get a fever? Why didn't Mom call me?" "It's okay, just a little cold. I took some medicine, and I'm much better now. I told Mom not to tell you, you're already working so hard. I always feel like I'm burdening you." Harmony's hand paused. She used to blame her brother and her parents for having a second child when they were nearing 40. But Timothy's considerate actions made her heart ache. Why talk about this? I'm your sister, and you're my brother. Thinking of this, Harmony rubbed his head. Do you really not need to go to the hospital? I'm telling you, Harmony, our family doesn't go to the hospital for minor illnesses and bears with it. Don't pretend to be pitiful. No one loves you, Timothy said. As the words fell, the siblings locked eyes and both burst into laughter. Harmony entered the advertising industry as a salesperson primarily because of Timothy. In her senior year, Harmony was enrolled in the best school's advertising design program and had secured a spot for a postgraduate study with a full scholarship. Teachers believed that with Harmony's abilities and insight, as long as she smoothly completed her postgraduate studies, her future would be exceptionally bright. However, Timothy fell ill. He fainted in the classroom, was rushed to the hospital, and eventually diagnosed with acute systemic lupus erythematosus. It quickly led to kidney failure, and the only way to cure it was a kidney transplant. Harmony's family was just an ordinary one on the outskirts of Jincheng. Her mother had taken early retirement due to diabetes, and the main source of income for the family was her father's monthly salary, which was less than 6,000. They simply couldn't come up with the funds for the surgery, let alone the lifelong medication that would follow. Mom, give up on me. Timothy, upon hearing the news, lay in bed, tears streaming down, pleading. At the age of 12, he was a cheerful and handsome young boy who loved basketball and singing. He would save his pocket money to thoughtfully buy birthday gifts for his sister. Harmony didn't utter a word. That evening, she stood on the rooftop for a long time. Finally, wiping away her tears, she sent a message to her advisor, giving up the scholarship. The autumn recruitment had already ended. Harmony started applying to advertising companies one by one, with a clear goal, to work in sales. Once, during an interview, an interviewer asked Harmony why she, with such excellent design skills, didn't consider a creative role. Harmony's response was simple: she needed money, a lot of it. Sales income was more flexible, and as long as she was willing to put in the effort, there would always be more opportunities. Eventually, Harmony joined the advertising company. It was a state-owned enterprise, not the largest, nor the most renowned in the industry. However, it had one good aspect: it never defaulted on sales commissions. For Harmony, that was already enough. Was there anything in the world more precious than money? Money was Timothy's lifeline, and based on this alone, Harmony had every reason to prioritize it. However, she never expected that after nearly 4 years of hard work, someone would seize her vulnerability and use commissions to control her. And this person happened to be the only one. She had fallen in love within her secret emotional world. Harmony took 3 days off, but she had to return to the company early due to budget issues with a client. After finishing dinner with the client and completing the second half of the meeting, it was nearing midnight. "Where are you?" Samuel asked. Harmony didn't reply. "I'll come pick you up," he insisted. "Samuel, let me remind you that you already have a girlfriend," Harmony said. "So what?" Did he not realize that he wasn't the only option for her, even resorting to manipulating her with commissions? Harmony sneered. Just as the designated driver arrived, she turned off her phone and went straight to her rented apartment. The next morning, Harmony arrived at the company punctually. Her first task was to formally submit the resignation application process through the office system. She had informed Samuel in advance, and since he avoided discussing it, she had to follow the protocol. By noon, the process was still pending approval. Harmony checked the status and saw that Samuel had viewed it but hadn't submitted it. She really wanted to ask him what he meant. Coincidentally, or perhaps it was tacit understanding, Samuel's message came in at that moment. "Let's have lunch together? Fish in hot chili oil or hot pot?" Harmony looked at the message on the screen, thought for a moment, and replied, "Is it a farewell dinner for the department? Let's discuss it after the handover is completed." The message was sent, but Samuel didn't reply. At lunchtime, as Harmony was thinking of going out for fast food, Samuel appeared in front of her. "We have a client. Come with me for a meeting." He looked serious and tossed the car keys to her. "My eyes aren't feeling well. You drive." With colleagues around, Harmony didn't say anything. She followed Samuel out. It wasn't until they sat down in a private room at the hot pot restaurant that she couldn't hold back any longer. "Samuel, I've already initiated the resignation process. I hope you can approve it as soon as possible. What makes you so determined to leave? Is it the company or me?" Samuel put down the menu and stared straight at her. What do you think? Perhaps because she was no longer in a work environment, Harmony didn't want to beat around the bush. I know, maybe in your eyes, female salespeople are inherently casual. So, even if you have a marriage partner, it shouldn't matter to me. I haven't thought that way. Samuel tried to explain but was interrupted by Harmony. But the fact is, Harmony said, regardless of what kind of relationship we had before, ultimately, you are still single. I'm not a moral role model, but I don't like getting involved in other people's relationships, even if it's just physical. So, you must leave? Samuel glanced at her, then lowered his head and chuckled softly, but he asked another question. How much is left unpaid on your contracts these past 2 years? Over 10 million, right? What do you mean? Harmony immediately sat up. The company has regulations. Regardless of whether I'm still employed or not, the commission for the collected payments will be settled. Are you implying you won't give it to me? What's the rush? Did I say I wouldn't give it to you? Samuel still appeared nonchalant. But you know, the company needs to control costs, and every department is short-staffed. Confirming income, accounting, all of these take time. Samuel. Harmony couldn't help but stand up. Is this a threat? Did I do something wrong to the company, or did I do something wrong to you? Just because money is important to me, do you have to bully me like this? At the end of her words, her eyes finally turned red. Whether it was from anger or because of the person saying these words, she didn't know. Emotions were vented, and they had their quarrel, but as long as the commissions weren't fully received, Harmony remained under the same roof. After being in sales for so long, Harmony had learned to adapt. That afternoon, she approached Samuel and apologized, explaining that her emotions got the better of her. She hoped he could forgive her, and she was willing to stay as his right-hand woman. Regarding their complicated relationship, Harmony took a step back, admitting that she had indeed fallen for him. She didn't want him to become the villain in other people's stories. Samuel believed her. I knew you were just jealous, he said, putting his arm around Harmony. Since you insist on returning to a superior-subordinate relationship, I won't force you. But you'll always have a place in my heart. I hope you understand my helplessness. Harmony lowered her eyes, and her eye rims turned slightly red. She didn't know if she was just acting or genuinely upset. Sometimes, Harmony missed her straightforward self right after graduation. When she stepped into this company, her eyes were only on money. Every day was either spent visiting clients or on the way to visit them. The entire marketing department, once harmonious, now faced a bloodbath, all because of a young woman barely over 1.60 m who unexpectedly became the queen of sales, bringing them into a whirlwind. Look at Harmony here. She's been with us for only 3 months, not even past the probation period, and she's already secured a 2 million contract. Shouldn't you all reflect on yourselves? Who's causing the company to miss its targets? The sales director scolded them at the time. So, Harmony must not have been well received. To what extent were they isolating her? During department meetings, if Harmony wasn't at her workstation, no one informed her. During team outings, everyone chatted in pairs, leaving Harmony walking alone at the back. Even when she was out acquiring clients, her clients would come to sign contracts, and she couldn't find anyone to help with the stamp approval. Harmony wasn't oblivious to the treatment she received. But once the payments were collected, the commissions came in, and Timothy had the money for his surgery. Harmony seemed to care less about how others treated her. Later, Harmony became the sales champion. In any industry, she gradually built her network, and her colleagues' attitudes improved day by day. After all, sometimes they needed her to help build bridges and make connections. But Harmony knew that these were surface-level changes. If she ever failed, there would be no one to lend her a hand. All she would get is a beating when she was down. Then, there was a change in the upper management, and Samuel arrived. To be honest, the female sales were still charmed by his face, but the males looked down on him, thinking he reached his position through connections. A leader who couldn't bring in client resources and whose abilities didn't impress the team held no value for the sales department. But Harmony saw things differently. Since she was being used anyway, why not let the person with more power use her? Coincidentally, Samuel was also eager to expand his influence, and after observing the situation, he thought no one was more suitable than Harmony. So, on some afternoon or evening, during a meal with only the two of them, they found themselves on the same side. At that time, Harmony had never considered the aftermath. This aftermath might, at certain moments, make her forget that she only loved money. Exiting Samuel's office, Harmony went to the restroom to touch up her makeup. Instead of heading straight back to her office, she chose to bask in the sun on the rooftop. As she pushed open the rooftop door, she overheard a conversation outside. Initially planning to avoid it, Harmony coincidentally heard her own name. Selling at the front line is already tough enough. Why badmouth her? Besides, Harmony is not the person they describe. Harmony paused. The young man continued, yes, I have a crush on her. So what? Age doesn't matter when a woman has wealth. Haven't you heard that saying? Back in her office, Harmony pondered on who the speaker might be. At that moment, Grayson from the creative department walked past. She turned her head, and their eyes met for a brief moment. Harmony noticed the young man's ears turning red. The next day, Harmony visited a new client and brought Grayson along. When she met Samuel near the elevator, his WeChat message quickly followed. Why take a new guy with you? Isn't the creative department providing you with resources? The new guy has enthusiasm, Harmony replied. She turned her head, looked at the somewhat reserved Grayson in the passenger seat, and added, moreover, the client deals with fashion brands. Don't you think Grayson fits the brand image? Are you attracted to that young man because he's handsome? Samuel said, paused, then sent another message, Harmony, I'm jealous. This statement was half true and half false. Harmony knew, yet her heart skipped a beat. Some hidden expectations could only be repeatedly suppressed with reason. When did she start having feelings for him? Harmony remembered that evening when the client was particularly troublesome, touching her thigh and persistently urging her to drink more. Helpless, Harmony sent a message to Samuel. Samuel arrived quickly, claiming he was treating guests in the same restaurant and heard about the impromptu meeting. Considering his position, Samuel had to give the client some face, and he ended up taking 3 self-punishing cups. After seeing off the client, both of them were a bit tipsy. Samuel suggested escorting her home but somehow ended up entering the adjacent hotel. The night was chaotic, and all Harmony could recall was Samuel staring into her eyes, repeatedly calling her name. His gaze was as if she were the only person in the world to him. Harmony reminded herself not to sink into it, but she still found herself descending step by step. Some say a woman's waist is a lethal weapon, but what about men? Harmony felt that Samuel's entire body was a weapon, every bit of him capable of inflicting harm. Even now, he used commissions to threaten her, yet he spoke sweet words. But what could she do? Women are naturally grudge holders, especially when you shouldn't touch their money. Harmony glanced at Grayson beside her. She hoped it wouldn't reach that point, hoped it was just her baseless suspicions. 3 months later, Harmony successfully collected most of the contract payments. According to the previous agreement, the company should now pay Harmony the full commission. She approached Samuel several times about it, but his response was a simple delay. During this period, Samuel repeatedly suggested visiting Harmony's clients together. While Harmony agreed on the surface, in reality, she only involved him in some superficial relationships and never shared her core resources. Salespeople, especially those who have worked hard for their resources, consider each one, especially the core ones, as hard-earned achievements. Harmony recalled a time when she coincidentally discovered that a client, with whom several attempts to schedule meetings had failed, was swimming at a club. Despite being in the middle of her menstrual cycle, she rushed to the supermarket, bought a box of tampons, and spent an hour accompanying the client. On the way home that night, Harmony's stomach began to ache, almost causing her to faint. This pattern of severe pain persisted every month. So, how could Samuel easily take away these hard-earned resources? Harmony understood this, and so did Samuel. While the two maintained a calm appearance, Harmony refused to surrender her resources, and Samuel withheld her commission. In the end, whoever became more desperate would have to make concessions. Harmony did not back down. She purchased a virtual number from a friend, took screenshots of some ambiguous chat records between them, mainly those initiated by Samuel, and sent them to Samuel's newlywed wife. As expected, 2 hours later, the wife showed up at Harmony's office. "Are you Harmony?" The woman pursed her lips, standing in front of Harmony's desk. "Do you know Samuel is already married?" Harmony nodded casually. "Even though I'm not there, the gift money has arrived." "Haven't you seen it? Why are you still involved with him? Know your place. Why are you so despicable?" The woman's anger was provoked by Harmony's nonchalant demeanor, and she raised her hand to throw her bag. Harmony was prepared and took a step back to dodge. "Madam, I did have a relationship with Samuel," she admitted candidly, "but at that time, he presented himself as single to the public. As for why he pretended to be single and cheated while having a girlfriend, you might want to ask him directly. People around them started to pay attention. This was indeed sensational news, as no one knew about the special relationship between Harmony and Samuel before. Samuel arrived at this moment. As soon as he entered the office, his expression changed. After a pause, he put on a smile and walked over. "Wife, why are you here?" Samuel placed his hand on the woman's shoulder. She forcefully shrugged him off, pointing at Harmony. "Samuel, you explain to me. Who is she?" Samuel, of course, wouldn't admit anything. He half-dragged and half-carried the woman into his office, intending to use his usual methods to appease her. However, now that things had reached this point, how could Harmony let him easily smooth things over? Ignoring the various curious gazes, Harmony stood up and knocked on Samuel's office door. In a polite manner, she spoke, "Samuel, I appreciate your efforts to retain me after I submitted my resignation. However, if my presence is causing you trouble or leading to unnecessary misunderstandings, I believe it's better for me to leave. Harmony, we can discuss this later." Samuel's words were cut off by his wife. "Leave? Are you willing?" The woman had red eyes. "Has he tied your hands or your feet? If you really wanted to resign, I don't believe a little retention would change your mind. Let me tell you, Harmony, I've seen many like you. What's really in your heart, you know. I'm sorry, I really didn't mean for it to turn out like this." Harmony looked distressed, turned to Samuel, and continued, "Samuel, my contract has been paid. Please coordinate with the finance team to calculate and release my commission. Once you get your commission, you'll leave?" The woman stared at Harmony, towering over her with a condescending demeanor. Harmony, playing the role of an innocent flower, looked at Samuel with a slightly aggrieved expression and nodded. "If Samuel agrees to release it today, I can leave today. You two discuss it. I'll leave first." After saying this, Harmony took a step back, closed the door, and returned to her seat amid various stares. Samuel's office had good sound insulation, and despite the tumult inside, it remained quiet outside. Harmony remained silent, quietly packing up her belongings. About 20 minutes before the end of the workday, she finally received a text message from her mobile banking app. She breathed a sigh of relief and, the next moment, moved the mouse to submit her resignation. Thinking about messaging Samuel, she discovered he had already blocked her. Was she a bit sad? Perhaps. However, when she sent a message to Samuel's wife, Harmony had already prepared for these consequences. She stood up, holding her belongings, and walked out. "Do you want to skip work and have a drink with me?" While waiting for the elevator, Harmony took out her phone and dialed a number. "How are you?" the other person asked simultaneously. "As long as you accompany me for a drink," Harmony replied with a gentle smile. "Sure," the person replied. "Are you really leaving?" Grayson asked after 2 bottles of beer. "Yeah," Harmony replied with a calm expression. "After doing this for so long, I just want to take a break." Grayson pursed his lips. "Are you very unhappy?" "It's not about happiness." Harmony opened another bottle. Work itself is not meant for happiness. However, initially, she hadn't expected it to be this difficult, nor had she imagined herself overcoming one challenge after another. Truly, she had climbed up. Harmony still remembered her first client meeting. With a background in design, she believed that her professionalism could impress clients by understanding their needs better. But it wasn't the case. Good ideas were merely the starting point. They couldn't win people over. Others could even directly plagiarize your ideas. That client was a classic example. Harmony and her creative team worked overnight on several proposal drafts, but the client remained non-committal. When she visited again, they claimed to have found a more suitable partner. Later, Harmony saw the company's billboard at a bus station. Except for some font changes and minor alterations in the slogan, it was their creative work. It was then that Harmony understood. They never intended to sign a contract with her. They just wanted her ideas. Isn't that plagiarism? Why didn't you sue them? Grayson couldn't hold back his frustration. What would I gain from suing them? Harmony calmly smiled. If I tell you that later, I invited him to dinner several times, drank until I had a gastric hemorrhage? Harmony raised her beer bottle and clinked it against Grayson's. Grayson was stunned. So, you see, in this world, there are no permanent friends or enemies, only permanent interests. And I only care about interests, Harmony said. No wonder they say. Grayson suddenly stopped, his face looking somewhat unnatural. What do they say? That I would do anything to secure a deal? Harmony tilted her head back and laughed. I know you're not like that, Grayson quickly explained. Who can say for sure? Maybe it's just that I haven't been pushed to that extent yet, Harmony said with a faint smile. Both fell into silence for a moment. So, you and Samuel. Grayson bit his lip. Did you really? We did, Harmony looked at him. As the saying goes, who hasn't encountered a few scumbags when they were young? Although she was still smiling, Grayson felt that Harmony might have wanted to cry at that moment. He didn't press on with that topic, just quietly accompanying her in drinking. In the end, Harmony had a bit too much to drink. Before falling asleep, she finally shed tears that she had been holding back for a long time. The news of Harmony's departure spread the next day. Subsequently, several advertising agencies contacted her, some of which offered attractive packages. However, Harmony had had enough of the days when her life was dictated by commission rates. If possible, she wanted to be the one in control. In the eyes of many, Harmony was indeed on vacation. Her social media showcased a tranquil life, from travel to afternoon tea, creating an illusion of serene days. At the same time, Samuel's days were not as smooth. First, a brand collaboration was about to expire, and when he tried to discuss renewing it for the next year, the client repeatedly avoided him. Another project, which Harmony had already been handling, seemed promising, but at the contract signing stage, things took an unexpected turn. Samuel called Harmony. She picked up quickly, but regarding the project he mentioned, she remained silent. Harmony, Samuel hesitated but continued, I don't want to believe you're playing games with me. After all, Harmony cut him off, Samuel, you're giving me too much credit. Even though she said this, Samuel believed that with everything unchanged in the company, except the client, the only variable was Harmony. Women, no matter how strong, were still women. Especially considering what Samuel knew about Harmony's feelings for him. So that evening, he bought Harmony's favorite cheesecake from a bakery and waited beneath her apartment building. Harmony, however, didn't return for a long time. Just as Samuel was about to give up, close to dawn, a black Bentley stopped at the entrance of the residential area. The driver opened the back door, and Harmony got out. Mr. Zhang, she turned and bent down to smile at the person inside. I've been grateful for your support all these years. I won't say more, but we'll continue to collaborate in the future. Please evaluate my performance. The person inside said something, and Harmony stood up, waving. All right, good night to you too. After bidding farewell, she walked through the community gate. Someone approached her from the side, grabbing her wrist. Harmony, Samuel gritted his teeth, but a smile remained on his face, coming back so late. I bought your favorite cake and waited here for hours. Harmony shook off the man's hand, running her fingers through her hair. Samuel, I didn't invite you to wait for me at my home. I came on my own. Is that okay? Samuel extended the cake towards her. After drinking, you might not feel well. Eating something could help. Harmony didn't take it. She stepped back, standing under a street lamp, staring directly at Samuel. If you have something to say, just say it. Harmony, must it be like this between us? Can't I simply want to see you? Samuel lowered his eyes, momentarily showing a hint of hurt and vulnerability. Harmony reminded herself once again that her initial feelings were understandable. After all, he was quite skilled in matters of the heart. However, that was all in the past. It had all ended when he used her commission to threaten her. Is it about those 2 contracts? Harmony laid out the facts. I've said it before, I don't know why you can't secure them, but it has nothing to do with me. Samuel scrutinized her. Harmony's tone was icy, devoid of the softness that was once present in her gaze. Heh, he chuckled softly, shaking his head. Actually, there are some things I didn't want to say. Harmony, you forced me into this. Samuel raised his hand and threw the cake into a nearby trash bin. With this action, the warmth that had surrounded him dissipated, and his gaze turned sharp. That person just now, he's also a client of the company, right? You've already resigned, yet you're still entangled with the company's clients. Harmony, don't blame me for being straightforward. I really haven't overestimated you. Gender advantage is something you've manipulated well. Whether they are in their 50s or 60s, they are, after all, male animals. They can't resist your charm. Samuel, what do you mean by that? Harmony raised her voice. I mean, why do they recognize you, the sales manager, rather than the company? Harmony, let me be clear today. If you mess with me again, don't blame me for not being polite. I've made a lot of sacrifices in this past year. As for a woman like you, who knows how many men she has been with? Dirty, isn't it? Samuel, you bastard. Unable to bear it any longer, Harmony raised her hand and slapped Samuel across the face. Despite the pain in her chest, she had lost interest in defending herself. She had simply loved the wrong person. There was no need to degrade herself like this. Besides, the path she intended to take was still long. Right and wrong would be proven through her actions in the future. However, Harmony didn't expect that a set of photos depicting the moment she bid farewell as she got out of the car would quickly circulate within the industry. There were also some malicious rumors. Although her friend didn't explicitly reveal the information to Harmony, she could guess the intentions behind it. Initially, Harmony had no intention of targeting Samuel. As a sales professional, her principle was to part amicably. Only positive relationships could bring benefits, just like the client who had initially copied her creative ideas and eventually became her client. But this time was different. If Samuel wanted client resources, she would give them to him. Harmony arranged to meet Samuel. You clearly know that I've never been with anyone other than you, yet you still treat me like this, she whimpered, feeling wronged. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Samuel gently patted Harmony's shoulder. Seeing you come back with other men, I was almost driven crazy with jealousy. Can't you understand my feelings, he said, wiping away her tears tenderly. She didn't reject leaning into his embrace, and for a moment, it seemed like nothing had happened during this time. They were still secretive yet passionate, just like before, except for the times when Samuel's lines made Harmony cringe. Later, Samuel deleted the things he had someone spread about Harmony, and she kept her promise, taking him to meet her most important client. The client's company was launching a new product for the year, and the person responsible for the advertising campaign hadn't been decided. Originally, they hadn't considered Jusheng, Samuel's company, but with Harmony's assistance, Samuel finally secured the project invitation. Harmony, you're truly my treasure of a girl, Samuel gazed at her affectionately. You always bring me surprises. I have more surprises for you than you can imagine, Harmony teased, winking playfully. What else? Samuel leaned in. You'll find out later. Harmony dodged his approach but continued to smile mischievously. I'll definitely give you unexpected surprises. Samuel indeed didn't expect to see Harmony at the project bidding venue. Why are you here? He asked, a foreboding feeling surging in his heart, especially when he saw Grayson standing behind Harmony. Sorry, I forgot to tell you, Samuel. Harmony signed the attendance book before turning to face Samuel. Our company also received the project invitation. Your company? Which one is it? Samuel was puzzled, glancing between her and Grayson. He remembered that the young man had recently left Jusheng. As for how he ended up with Harmony, Samuel had no idea. Sanxiang, Harmony said, a small company, newly established. I hope Samuel will take care of us in the future. Samuel was stunned. Someone had mentioned this company to him recently, describing it as a newly established firm with fierce momentum. Their first project involved an annual promotion contract with an international luxury goods conglomerate. What position did they give you? Samuel asked. Harmony is a partner in our company, Grayson said, studying Samuel for a while before answering slowly. A partner? Samuel found it hard to believe, as Harmony hadn't informed him of this development. Despite their frequent interactions on WeChat recently, he was left wondering what was going on. For some reason, Samuel always felt that Harmony's presence this time was directed at him. In the bidding process, as soon as he entered, he faced various questions, ranging from creativity to event organization and budget details. Samuel wasn't adept at handling these aspects. He relied on relationships and climbed the ladder through connections. He had been signaling the client manager he had previously arranged with, but the person remained silent. Next was Harmony's turn to present the bid. Samuel waited at the door, and it took a full hour before Harmony walked out with a smile on her face. Harmony, what do you mean by this? Samuel grabbed her and questioned her sharply in the safety corridor. What do I mean? Isn't it hard to understand? Harmony chuckled. You looked down on me, didn't you? Spread rumors about me everywhere, Samuel. I gave you a chance to compete with me fairly, but if you really lose to a woman who only knows how to leverage gender advantage, I hope you can accept your defeat willingly. With that, she shook off his hand and walked away with her head held high. A week later, the bidding results were announced, and indeed, it was Harmony representing 3 elephants that secured the project. Samuel faced criticism from the general manager, attempting to attribute his failure to predetermined client decisions rather than his own shortcomings. However, the tables turned quickly as Harmony's company not only won an advertising award for creativity but also secured the entire year's advertising and promotion contract for the client's entire product range. Samuel personally took charge, and yet he was outplayed? Sales colleagues mocked him behind his back. Even his influential connections subtly warned him that such performance might jeopardize his position. After some investigation, Samuel discovered that Grayson was the lead planner on Harmony's side. Grayson, who had won international advertising awards before graduating from university, had been forced into joining Jusheng by his parents who valued the stability of state-owned enterprises. To Samuel's astonishment, the mysterious overseas investor backing Harmony turned out to be Grayson's aunt, a prominent Wall Street investment figure. Recalling the time when Harmony brought Grayson to meet a client, Samuel had asked if she found the young man handsome. Analyzing the current situation, it became apparent that Harmony might have known about these connections from the beginning, and everything she did was preparation for today. "So, do you think I'm using you?" In that same bar, Harmony asked Grayson with lowered eyelids. "Yeah," Grayson paused, then lightly tapped his bottle against hers, "but rather than letting you use others, I'd prefer to let you use me." "Why?" Harmony inquired. "Don't you know?" Grayson retorted. Harmony fell silent, admitting that Grayson had a point. Perhaps due to her own worldly experiences, she felt weary when it came to matters of love. Better to focus on making money. "I promise to gift you the shares. The agreement is already drafted, I'll send it to you, and you can have a lawyer review it," Harmony casually mentioned. Yeah, Grayson did not refuse. He didn't know how long he would like the woman in front of him, but at least for now, he did. So, he decided to indulge in a bit of youthful impulsiveness. As for the day he might not like her anymore, these shares would serve as compensation. After all, everyone is just a common mortal. Can anyone truly ignore gains and losses?